Live.
Here we are. Welcome back to Soaring Profits. Today we have Mike 2.0. I was talking about how we had Mike last week, and obviously this gentleman is a lot different than that, Mike. He has a new podcast called Finding Fish. His wife is my boss, and he has three wonderful children, two boys and a girl. A great father, a great man of the world, and he has traveled extensively and knows those little niche places that you don't get to find by going to resorts, etc. I'm going to let him kind of tell us what he does because I think it's amazing, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about it. Go ahead, Mike. Tell us a little bit about Finding Fish.
Hey, thanks for having me. My name is Mike Fisher, and basically, Finding Fish is all about what's in my soul. My last name is Fisher, so my nickname is Fish. And finding is everything I like to do in life. It's about adventure. So I just put those two together to come up with that name. And it's basically an extension of what I've been doing for the last 40 years of my life. And then I watched YouTube, figured it out like, hey, maybe I should try putting stuff on YouTube. And lo and behold, Finding Fish was born because of COVID.
Right.
Perfect.
Great things were formed because of COVID.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's extreme boredom in your house looking at your walls. You can only renovate so much until you start having to branch out to something else.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
totally.
Yeah. So what exactly do you like, what is the plan of Finding Fish? What is your mission?
So Finding Fish is basically it's about adventure. It's about travel. It's about having fun. It's about finding people. It's about it's about exploring the planet. So basically, my wife and I go away, and we just love to find out what's going on at the resort we're staying at, or if the little beach house we're going to rent, or the little place that we're going to go grab some food. So basically, we want to capture as much as we can and to try to tell some sort of a story about what we're doing there. Because we're brand new YouTubers, there's no real handbook on, hey, do this, do that, and it should all work out perfect. So it's just basically learning on the fly, learning the technology, and doing it. And this is what's happening.
Right. Well, like they say here is we've got Mike here who's done a fantastic job. For us rookies that have been putting some of this together for ourselves over the last little while, it's not an easy process to put this up. Like, Mike, you're able to see that, eh? We've got you connected in there. You can see what we're doing right now?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. So putting this all together in the way that you've done it, first of all, awesome job. Like, for someone who's just starting off with this, right? And building this. For a couple, like, I'm not a tech guy. James is our tech guy here. We joke about that all the time. But to be able to do this, have some fun, enjoy this, the shots that you're getting are amazing. Like, it really, really cool stuff as you roll through it all, right?
This isn't my video.
This is what?
This is not mine.
No way.
No, I'm serious.
What? How did that happen? This is.
Welcome to Not a Tech Guy.
This is.
There we go.
There you go.
How did I do that? James, let me touch tech stuff, dude.
Never should you touch tech stuff. Yeah. So
Mike,
this
I'm sorry, pal.
It also has great imagery, and it's exciting. Like, yeah, no, I completely agree, Mike. Like, we are just like babies crawling, trying to figure out how to like video edit and find out what content people want, and how long to leave kind of dead air for to show images and stuff like that. So it's all brand new, and you're right, there really is no book. It's like parenting. There's no book for it. You just kind of figure it out, and you hope that you get good feedback.
Yeah. So this video right here is my very first attempt at editing. So this took me over 80 hours to edit this.
Want to see the other one? They did a really good job too. Mike, I'm sorry, pal. I apologize, buddy.
Anyway, so this video took me 80 hours to edit because I actually had to learn FileMaker Pro. So it's basically, you know, when you're at home and you're learning things, it's like taking a university course when you're older. It's tough, it's hard, and you got to force yourself through it to do it. And this was the result of my first attempt, and I'm really proud of it because I almost nailed. Like, I don't want to say I nailed it, but I was trying to do something and I got close to what I was trying to do.
Right.
So
no, I think you did a great job, man. I think it's awesome. Now, when you first started this is obviously, this video was, what's the date on this? Is this is March?
March.
So from March, what have you looked at? What have you changed? What is some of your process that you've kind of rethought about? Okay, I've learned from this. I had really good successes. I had some failures, limitations, whatever. What's next? What did you learn out of that little process, and where do you see yourself rolling from there?
So yeah, I learned a lot from this. So the process that I'm going towards now is really trying to connect with the audience. So more visual, me talking right into the camera and connecting with exactly what I'm going to do that day. This is what I'm going to eat. This is where we're going to go. This is how it's going to sound. This is what it's going to taste like, kind of, to the people that are watching and to my subscribers, like to try to build that connection with them and myself. That's what I'm really focusing on, and getting comfortable with the camera and me talking into the camera and taking that flow to them. That's what I'm working on. And it's a lot to figure out.
Yeah, and you and I were talking at one point, maybe at the bar, I believe it was St. Paddy's Day, and we were talking about how if you go and videotape with intent, then the video editing process becomes easier.
Totally.
Because then you don't have to cut out things and you don't have to add things because you know what you're filming. But because that's a lot of the problems I had when I first started was, you know, you start videotaping things without intent, and then when you go to piece it all together, it's kind of a nightmare. You lose a lot of stuff. And
totally. Yeah. So now I basically know in my mind when I'm going to start that video of my B-roll, how I'm going to start it off, how I'm going to basically introduce myself, and then create my B-roll, and then try to get it flowing. So I kind of know it really helps me with the editing. So totally. Yeah. And I know that is going to be a process, and I'm going to learn that process to make it easier for everything and to make it more natural. That's kind of what I'm trying to do, is be more natural in front of the camera.
Right.
Yeah. And that's something both Pat and I had to work on. We were, because we also do just like little videos of ourselves in our car, and sometimes I'm running and stuff like that. And for a while there, we were like sending little messages to each other that, you know, I can see up your nose and all this other stuff.
Well, if you just wear pants, it makes
you just wear pants, it might help. Yeah. There were a couple of those.
And you get nose hairs hanging out. Yeah, I've seen it all on my own videos. It's like, don't do that again. Don't do this again.
Yeah.
You have to see yourself on video to learn. So you have to see your worst. And that's what they tell you on YouTube, is just start, because you need to see everything that you're doing, well, your worst out now, so you can groom yourself, critique yourself, and grow. And that's what I'm trying to do now.
For sure. Yeah. So where do you see it going? Like, what do you think your next move is?
Well, I spend a lot of time in Europe, so I'll be going back there in the fall. I've got a couple of videos out. It's like there's the oldest pubs in London, and I have another one. I've got the Borough Street Market in London. The Borough Street Market is kind of where I'm going to be. Kind of that's what I'll be looking like. It'll be, but with more talk and with more, back and forth with my spouse or whoever's with me, to really, mesh with the audience, mesh with who's watching, and to try to tell that story of whatever story it's going to be. If I'm eating a clam, or we're getting a burger, or we're going in a castle. that's where I see myself. And that's what I just want to expand on that. Like when I look at YouTube and I search YouTube, a lot of people go to YouTube for food. It's like one of the top trending categories. It's always at travel, food, but actually food comes before travel. So,
Okay.
and I love to eat. One of my favorite foods is a burger. I've loved a burger since I was like 2, 3 years old. So wherever I go, I like to have a burger, and I'm gonna probably start bringing that into more of my vlogs,
Right.
because it's just part of me and it comes naturally.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and there's also something, it sounds like, you enjoy that, you're passionate about it, it's food that you enjoy doing. But in your travels, a Cuban burger is very different than something you're going to get over there, right? So to express that, to open that to that sort of deal, that's cool. I think that's fantastic.
Totally.
Now, are you thinking, is that there a business angle on this? Like, is there an angle that you're thinking that there's something to grow into, like a sponsorship? What is there? And the reason I ask is that these are all things that everyone talks about: monetization on YouTube, what sort of ad revenue, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
As someone who's starting out, you're about, about a year ahead of us, really, when you first started this. Is
Yeah.
that something you see, or do you think that there's just do your own thing and away you go?
No, so I'm going to be heading back to Cuba. I would think within the next month,
Awesome.
and I'm going to be doing like a resort that we frequent quite often. That you actually brought up, like a lot of the filming was done at that resort. I'm going to be doing. It's going to be called check in, check out. So it's going to be in everything in between. So a lot of people constantly ask me, "Oh, what can I expect if I go to Cuba? What is it like?"
Right.
So some of these hotels have massive followings, and so what I'd like to do is kind of capture that. So because they're constantly on forums asking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a video of it. So from the time you check in to the time you check out and everything in between, this is what you can expect. This is what you can expect to see, and these are the people that you'll probably see.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where I'm going to take that.
I love that. It's funny because I was in Cuba before COVID kicked off, and I followed the Facebook page, and Facebook seems to be the driving force for the Canadian consumer taking on that Cuban experience. What should I expect? A lot of French, a lot of like people that maybe have been before, maybe had a good experience, maybe didn't have a great experience, and they're reaching out to that community. But
Totally.
the hotel themselves doesn't have the reach to be able to touch those people.
It's crazy.
It's wild. That's where I think that's a really interesting niche that you've got there. That's very cool.
Mhm.
So when do we fly out?
Yeah, what time can we be there?
I'll just meet you.
We're probably flying out mid-July.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
One
I can
thing
make
that
that work. I can
Yeah.
make that work. Yeah.
One thing that I have learned from doing this is I've met a lot of people, as in the industry, like at resorts. I typically will run into the head honchos. They'll embrace me because they see me with my camera gear and they want to know what I'm doing, and then they want to embrace it because they don't have the budgets or the
Right.
knowledge to do it.
Yep.
Right.
And in some of these countries, they're not allowed to do it. Like
Really?
Cuba's, it's a communist country, really. Like
Mhm.
their freedoms, they look like they have freedoms, but they're regulated of what they're allowed to do by somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. Oh.
What I want to is I'm going to do this unpaid. I'm going to do it for myself and hopefully get some notoriety out of this and do another resort,
Right.
and then and get sponsorships down the road from that.
That's cool.
And that's not my number one goal. That'd be great if I could,
Right.
Right.
but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm doing it because I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think that's, when we first started this, James and I, well, first of all, I think James heckled me for about 3 years, it feels like.
3 years.
Yeah. For an inordinate amount of time. And
Yeah.
he's like, dude, we should because we'd sit around and have a beer. I'm a Scotch guy. And he's like, dude, we got to put something together here where we're just sitting around what do you got? Oh, Scotch and soda. There you go. Yeah.
Yes.
He's like, let's do this. Let's put this together. And not my business kind of mind takes over. And I think, what can you do? How do you monetize this? Where do you go from here? And you know what, Mike, it's one of those things that since we've just sat back and just kind of put pen to paper, if you will, if you were writing a book, if you were doing something like that, It's been so much more fun. It's kind of a place where we can come and just like, regurgitate ideas, what the day was, what's going on in the world. And we've had so much more fun. And I think people have kind of embraced it because of that. We've had, people that have been like, you're a national treasure, James.
I am a national. I've heard.
Asshole.
But it's also great. It's also great because Pat's like teaching all these, our profiteers is what Pat coined them.
I love it.
So the profiteers are all learning about how to read market charting and how to decide it when it's good and not good to buy stocks, et cetera, like that. And during that time, because we're having these conversations, I've learned like incredible amounts, and it's kind of neat because I'm surprising him all the time when we're on, doing a live or whatever, and I come up with some concept that he's told me about, and really I'm just regurgitating what he's saying, but he's like, "That's absolutely right," and it's exciting, it's neat. And then on the other side where I'm doing motivation stuff, it's just exciting because I'm getting a lot of great feedback from people that they're saying that good things have happened to them because of the videos that I've made, and to me, and always to me, and when I was pushing them to do this, it's just about that. I would like to make money. Don't get me wrong. I like making money. But if 10 people walk away from watching us and they learn about travel, or they learn about money, or they learn about, how to motivate themselves and go out and do something for themselves, for me, that's amazing. I just love it. Love it.
Good for you. That's totally how I feel. I don't have a lot of subscribers, but you know what? Tomorrow, if I get one more, like, that's a great moment.
Yeah.
I just want to get to one plateau, and then I'll go to the next plateau, but I'll just work on whatever I need to work on to get to that next plateau.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it's funny you say that, because when we first launched, James and I are like, we're going to put like 900 videos a day up. YouTube's they're going to reckon the day that they tried to, take on Soaring Profits. And then the first time we got a comment, we're like, what do we do now? We're like, oh, shit.
So true.
But that's the thing, is that it's whether it's friends, whether it's buddies, it's a little bit of like, hey man, good for you. I appreciate what you're doing, that kind of deal. And it does. It's kind of reinforcing that motivation to go do it again tomorrow, right?
And the first time because now we're getting a couple of strangers that we don't really know, actually messaging us and saying, oh, you guys are doing a good job. And that was just like phenomenal. Like, I don't even know where in the world they are. And yet, they're learning and they're interested. That part is exciting to me. It's just, it's totally cool.
Totally true. So good to feel that, eh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some guys reaching out from Iraq. You just get people from all over the world just telling you, hey, that was cool. I liked what you did there. Like, and this could be a month or two later that the video's been out, and then you just get a random message.
Yeah.
So it's really inspiring.
I keep getting these messages from this Libyan prince that's got a couple $1 million for me. Like, I don't know if I should send him the cash to get him out of jail. Like, it seems odd to me.
My kids say don't do that.
Don't do that one?
That's what the kids say.
Right.
You're wrong, Toby, because he's got diamonds. He's got that big chest of diamonds, I believe. That's what you told me. So, like, give it to him. It's only 30 grand.
He's just got to get into jail.
Yeah, that's right. If you could help him.
Yeah, again, doing the stuff, following with James with his journey and that sort of thing, through like, we talk about the keto stuff, we talk about a lot of politics. I'm super like deep dive into politics stuff. I got like the tinfoil cap on about as much as I possibly can of what's going on in the world. And then you hear people, they start talking about it in their own lives. And it's like, would you have been doing that, or would that topic have been something that you converse about if you hadn't kind of picked up what we were talking about? And that's, like I say, it's those cool little things that are like, as a creator, because we're creators now, James.
We are creators. Yeah. So the concept, Mike, originated at Pat and I would have these conversations, and we'd have all the conversations that you're not allowed to have, especially since we're white men, and there's a lot of conversations we're not allowed to have. And we'd be at the bar and we'd be discussing them, and usually someone, a young lady or a young man, would come sit with us and get pretty angry. But then we talk through it, and then at the end we'd shake hands, have a shot or something, and then we move on. And it was just that, like, that feeling that, you know, we used to sit with our dads and our moms, and you'd sit around the table eating dinner. You talked about everything. You talked about politics. You talked about whatever you wanted to talk about. And at the end, you got heated, you got angry, but at the end, you still loved each other. You just walked away and happy. And our concept was that we've lost that. Like, everyone's so busy shouting each other down that no one's listening to each other anymore. So we thought, you know what, let's start this like dinner table conversation and see what happens. And along the way, we'll teach about money and motivation. And yeah, it's just
I find people probably also, I think people take a lot of things personally
right
now. Maybe not right now, but you know, I find that some topics are just, you can just hit a chord with someone. It's interesting when you do hit a chord with someone, but when you do talk about politics or religion,
you can feel the air.
Believe it, 100%.
Right. Yeah, you can feel the air just come out of the room in some of these conversations, and I think part of and again, going back to what the causation of this was, is part of this is that nobody wants to insult somebody else, and they only know how to put across their own argumentative perspective. And that's what we're saying is that, like, okay, James and I are like politically fair, like diametrically opposed. I'm very conservative. James is, you know, well, I would say that you're like more centralist now.
I'm a moderate liberal. Yeah. But I'm probably more central now.
So that's when we get into some stuff, and I'm hoping when we start bringing some more people on, you know, we can throw down a little bit. But at the end of the day, like, we're all buddies. You enjoy yourself, you laugh and joke. I think he's ridiculous about certain things. He thinks I'm ridiculous about certain things.
I just think you're flat out wrong because you're young.
Whatever.
That's all it is.
Old bull, young bull. Is that what you're trying to pull off here?
Yeah. Old bull, young bull. Yeah. Right. No, like, I live a long life and I know things now, and unfortunately you don't, and that's okay. I don't mind. It doesn't bother me that you're innocent. That's all it is.
I will take that, because most of the time I don't get innocent out of James when he's, you know, identifying me as
well. My boss's husband's here, so
right.
Careful.
Trying to be nice. Is that what that is? Yeah.
That's right. No. Yeah. She thinks I'm nice, so I can't shatter that. She might even be watching.
I think it's good to have viewpoints from all ages.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to my kids and I tell them what I think, which, you know, as I get older, I find that maybe I'm getting dumber, because their ideas are really good sometimes, and sometimes they're not. But it's really nice to have a fresh look, approach, whatever you want to call it, even though we're set in our kind of ways, because, you know, we've done it 52 years. It's got to be right. And then your kids do something different. It's like, oh, geez, maybe I should have tried that. You know?
Well, you were saying you have 3 kids, Mike. How old are your kids?
I've got a 22-year-old, I've got a 19-year-old, and a 16-year-old.
So they're like right in that heading off, independent, doing things, heading off into the world type thing.
My oldest just finished university, bio sciences. My daughter is in France right now as a Montpellier, living the high life.
No doubt.
And Charles is 16, and he's a typical 16-year-old boy. Does whatever he wants.
Oh,
that's good.
Yeah.
The baby of the family too, so it changes things. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. No, I've met all 3 kids, and they're wonderful, and they're driven just like their parents, and it's nice to see. So nice to see.
I've got good kids. I can't complain.
No, it's great, and we talk about it all the time. Like Harlow is Pat's daughter, and she's just kind of growing up into that. She's 12 now. My kids have moved on. My son actually this weekend is graduating from computer engineering. My daughter is doing well in Halifax, and couldn't be prouder. And they're just a different caliber of that age group. Totally. Like, when I look around, or I talk to my friends who have kids that age, the failure to launch, like my kids couldn't wait to get out, and they were hungry to face the world, you know, and I think your kids are similar, like some of them, right? And it's great. I think that's wonderful. I think that's what should happen. You know, I'm here. I'm a net for you to fall into anytime you want. But go get out there, go get what's yours. And if you need help, I'm here. But otherwise, you know, you do you, have fun, enjoy yourselves. And I don't care if you work at Subway, is what I told them. I just want you to be happy. Fortunately, they don't, because that would suck. But
yeah. Well, you get a free sub once in a while.
True. Very true. So we were just mentioning politics. Mike, where do you fit? Like, so Ford just got elected.
Ford, yeah. I don't pay attention too much to the Ontario, because I think they're just kind of puppets. But with our federal government, you know, like it's disappointing.
Yes.
You know, it's been a couple of years of disappointment. I don't have a lot of faith right now in government. You know, look at what happens here. Look what happens in the States. No matter who you elect, it turns into a bit of it's a gong show lately. I think politics and the politicians that they'll do anything to be reelected to keep a paycheck coming in. That's what it feels like to me. And I don't know how, you know, it doesn't work.
So he's a good conservative. He's on my side. I appreciate it. I think that's it for tonight, folks. It was a pleasure. Thank you for coming. Mike,
trying to cut it short here. No, he's obviously a liberal, just a knowledgeable liberal.
Disenfranchised liberalism.
I've always been a conservative. I have.
Yeah.
I look at the liberal, like I find that it's hard because governments, like say liberals and the NDP, they're massive spenders, and spending. I look at spending as inflation, and if the liberals have inflation, and then if we have NDP, it'd be hyperinflation. I worry about more like the Canadian dollar. I worry like if the more we spend on whatever we're spending on, our Canadian dollar goes down and our purchasing power as Canadians go down as well. Yep. So that's what I look at, because I want to travel and do as much as I can. But when you have a 77-cent dollar, you just do the mathematics on that. When you make $1 and you want to buy a US dollar, you just lost 30%.
Yeah.
You lost 30% on income tax. You got HST. By the time you want to travel, you got to double. You got to save double. So
you're exactly right, and it's refreshing to have another conservative on here. Thank you for joining us. But you're exactly right, and a lot of this comes back to is understanding kind of a geopolitical understanding of the world, right? The things that you're talking about there right now are not the feel-good things. Like, you're not like, we're going to solve, every crisis around the world. You're going, this is how this one factor affects us here. It affects my family directly. And then it affects me from not going and being able to build a church in Cuba or a school in Cuba or whatever, wherever in the world. If we can't take care of ourselves here, we can't do the other amazing things that are around the world. And I think that comes down to, and I don't know how much you saw about this with James and I love picking at each other about this, is a fundamental understanding of economics that a lot of liberals right now in the world are just caught on the feel good stuff because it was just not a guy named Trump. So as long as that's a thing, everything else is just cool, right? And we talk a lot about kind of the world. And hang on to your pants, because the Canadian dollar and the US dollar are about to flux away from each other in a big way. People are going and they're finding security in the US dollar right now with uncertain times. I think you're going to see a Canadian American dollar split again, where you're going to see it you could see it back into that low 70s, even high 60s by the time this craziness is all done.
It makes no sense. Like,
right.
I don't understand why our policy is to have such a low dollar. It helps none of us. Go to the grocery store, go buy a 2x4, go buy some copper for plumbing.
Yep.
These are all things that we have in our own country, and we can't even afford them because we give them away to someone else. We give our oil away at a 20% discount, $20 discount every single day. It's crazy.
There's an interesting backstory there as to why the Canadian oil industry the way that it is. And it goes back to Papa Trudeau and how he made a lot of money in his family. And the Trudeau family was one of the founding institutions of importing oil from the Saudis. And we as a Western society are rather energy independent. However, we continue to go back to the well, quite literally, and we just keep buying and paying. And the United States, when I look at the States right now and everything online and everything that they're talking about, they're losing their mind at, $5 a gallon. And here we are in Canada going like, we're like $9.50 a gallon, but we're just doing it.
We're going to do it until something breaks, it feels like.
Right.
Like some people that can't afford actually groceries and that are very hurting in this country, I don't know how they're doing it. Like, honestly, I don't know how they're doing it.
Right.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot lately, that I don't know, after you buy gas and then buy groceries, like my grocery bill, I'm a single man. I don't have anyone else here except when my son comes. And I went from a $30 grocery bill to a $70 grocery bill. And I have changed nothing. Like literally, I'm not buying any different food. Nothing different. I do buy brand names because I'm a single guy and I can afford that, but it's just wild. And then my car went from $50 to $98. And so I think to myself, if I didn't make the money I make, because I do all right, and I had a family back in the day, like, because I wasn't always doing as well as I am now. So if you go back like 15 years ago when I was struggling, I would be seriously deciding whether or not I would put gas in my car or feed my kids.
Yeah.
That would be the choice every day, or pay for heat, or pay for hydro, or pay, like, I would be constantly behind that 8 ball trying to move money around, trying to find a thing. And it's dangerous. And so I worry, and this is my liberal sides, and you conservatives can just listen and
knew it was coming.
But this is also a time that we need mental health help. We need our hospitals to be strong. We need to do a better job than what we're doing. This 24-hour hold and then let go is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I was talking to a guy this morning. I stopped at a bank this morning. It was 5 a.m. And unfortunately, the bank was locked. Now our ATMs are locked because they don't want homeless people living in there, I guess. Because our bus shelters are all filled with homeless people. We have a huge homeless problem. Anyway, I turn around and I hear this singing, and I'm looking around. Where's the singing coming from? I'm all alone it's dark. Then down the road, I see a gentleman that I've talked to before. I know he's homeless. I know he suffers from mental health, and he has this pill bottle, and he's singing to the pill bottle, and he's talking to it, and he's ranting to it, but he's in the middle of the frickin' road. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy's going to die. And I kind of know him, kind of don't know him. So I walked up to him and asked him if he was okay. And as soon as he saw me, he hid the pill bottle right away. It just reminded me of Golem in the One True Ring, like it was just my precious, and it was gone. And so I gave him a little bit of money. He said, get some food. And like, I don't know what happened to him, but he moved off and he went down the road. But I know he suffers from mental health. I know this guy, he could get some help somehow. Then maybe he's a young man. He's got to be 20, but he has no help. He's always on the streets. He goes, like, there are some times that I have to back up for my safety because he's so out of it. He gets super angry and it's dangerous for me. Other times he's a great guy. We have a great conversation. And then there's times like this morning where he didn't even know I existed. It was just the bare minimum to, like, he took the money and then got off the street because he obviously had a mission in mind. But we have to do better. We have to get these people some help. And to do that, we have to spend money. Mm-hmm. And I know, I get it. Right now, I voted conservative myself because I knew the Liberals would spend too much money. It's just a bad idea to spend money now. I know they're going to cut back on Medicare. I know they're going to cut Medicare, hospitals.
US.
I know they're going to cut back on hospitals and education, which sucks. But if we don't do something, we're going to be in serious trouble. But I do think that we're spending money on things that we don't need to spend money on. And we could, right now, mental health is really important. We're going to have families that are going to lose everything. We're going to have children that are going to be out on the streets because their parents can't afford them. It's going to be a nightmare coming up very soon. And it's good. Like, already in our community, we have knifings. I believe we had one shooting. When I moved here, that just didn't happen. Never heard of it. Like 20 years ago, I don't remember. Pat, do you remember any of that? Mike? Like in Peterborough? Was that a thing?
Rare, very rare.
Right?
Yeah, we had going back when I was a young man here growing up, is that we had some of the motorcycle gang stuff that was slowly rolling itself through. And this was back when, you know, you'd hear about Montreal car bombings between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine back in the day, right? And you'd have a guy pull through here and they'd make a big scene about him. And it's like now we've got like strongholds in our community, and they're like, they seem fine.
They're good at saying
it. No, it's a very different community, right? And you know, James, I don't think anyone on any political level is going to say that the mental health aspect is not a problem and what do we do with it. The problem is that you have to pay for it. And at the end of the day, if we're going to throw massive amounts of money at things, it has to come from somewhere. And if we're on the wrong side of trade issues, if we're on the wrong side of industrial processes, if we're going to see wheat and oil prices where we can't feed people, I promise you the mental health crisis that is being flagged as a crisis is not even on the radar if we can't feed people. It goes back to like simple psychological processes of like Maslow, right? You can't feed yourself. You're not worried about self-actualization, about, hey, you know, am I the person that I want to be? Am I identifying as the person that I want to be? You don't get there if you don't have bread on the table.
Yeah. I think personally from me, I wish our politicians would be way more transparent, have real agendas that you follow and people can follow through as well. Hey, where are you going to get the money from? And this is what we're going to put it towards. And this is how we're doing with that. And I find right now we're all over, like we're throwing darts at issues, and then we're on to something else next week.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think it's by design, Mike, to be honest with you.
Yeah, totally.
Is that if you can keep a population a little bit scattered and hey, look over here, this is really important to you, isn't it? They don't look behind the curtain. And that's one of the big things. And some of the talks that we've had of late, and Mike, I know you don't know me super well, but I'm not, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not a Chicken Little guy, right? Like I love a good conspiracy. I will dive all day into that stuff. I love it. But I'm not like the sky is falling. Over the last like 3 months, I'm starting to look at things. I'm like, there's a huge population of the world that might not get fed next year.
Totally.
And it's kind of like, why? How did this happen?
Yeah.
COVID, for whatever your viewpoints are on COVID, I had COVID. I've had family members that had COVID. I don't think it should lead to mass starvation. I don't know how we got there.
Yeah. How did we get here?
Right.
Really?
So that's the crazy stuff that's happening to me. And again, a lot of stuff that I love doing in finance is trying to track the money, find the money, follow the money, and you can make some interesting decisions, right? And that's where I look at the world right now. I don't see oil coming back down to an affordable price for a long time. I look at food staples. James, I sent you a link today to an article that was 2,000 cattle killed in a heat wave in Kansas. Florida's probably really hot. How about like Arizona? We can do cattle there, but Kansas? 2,000 dead cattle on the side of the road. Like, what is happening right now?
Crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, they've been talking about wheat not being able to be grown. Of course, Ukraine and Russia, apparently they make 25% of our grains, and they're obviously not getting them out to us. Russia's not even selling them to us because we've sanctioned them to death. Right. And Ukraine can't, obviously. So that's a huge portion of where we get food, and others get food. Now, and then we have droughts and stuff in our own country. And then we were talking about the price of fertilizer, and we don't understand why. But they were saying the price of fertilizer has gone up 40%. So farmers can't afford to, because they've been doing it this way for so long, they can't afford to pay for the fertilizer, to get the seed in the ground, to get it to grow. That seems crazy to me in a country that, you know, we just bailed out GM for some stupid reason.
It's crazy in a country of Canada where if you go to Regina, There is the biggest potash company in the world was called Potash. There's tons of it out there. That's the fabric. That's the makings of fertilizer and natural gas. It's crazy. We have it all right here. We should not be out of fertilizer in North America. That's a farce.
Right.
And I don't. But that's
why. Why is it happening? Why is it happening?
It's time to put on the hats.
It is though, man. Like I love this stuff, and this is where, like, Mike, you can tell that you follow things. You're educating yourself on what's happening around the world, and that's why you're conservative, and I love it. Thank you so much for being an educated Canadian and doing that.
I actually owned Potash for a long time. That one company.
No way, really, eh?
Yeah, and I've owned a lot of natural gas and oil companies.
Yep.
Since I was a kid. So
they're not going away.
They're not. The one reason that we are in this bind with high prices for oil and natural gas is, do you guys remember when oil went down to a negative number, a negative print? Do you remember seeing that in the news?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what happened there is out west, we had a glut of oil and natural gas. And so what happened is, the Liberal government, and this is one reason why I hate them, because I actually lost a lot of money. They bailed out the airlines, they bailed out tourism, they bailed out the fisheries, but they did not help Calgary at all.
Yeah.
Calgary needed a lifeline. The XL Keystone pipeline got kiboshed. They had a glut of oil. They were getting like zero. They were breaking even. They weren't even breaking even. They were almost going bankrupt. A lot of the oil and gas companies. They just needed financing. They just needed someone to say, "Listen, we will give you financing at 6 or 7% for a year until this sorts itself out." But of course, the Liberal government gave them nothing, and a lot of companies went bankrupt. And because of that bankruptcy, no one put money into the drill bits. No one put money into exploration. And that's why we're here today. And we don't have an energy transition platform in North America at all. Like Biden doesn't have one, nor does Justin Trudeau. So when you tell people we want to be carbon neutral or go green, how are we going to do that? How are we going to bridge that gap? And then we don't bridge the gap and we just go for it. This is what it looks like. Right. And we're in big trouble.
Mike, you nailed it, pal. I agree with you 100%. You're exactly bang on. We have, the concept of watching a transition to greener energy, greener transportation, greener things is fantastic. But if we're looking at it as a global trade solution that we've ran with for the last 70 years after World War II, it works. It works. You can have Tesla build cars in China because they're getting their copper from Argentina. They're getting their rubber from Africa. They're getting all over the place.
Totally.
Well, our supply chains are gone. They're broke. Will they ever truly come back? And can you depend on China to be able to continue doing it, right? How do you feed your families if you can't get the food to the shopping center, if you can't grow it in your backyard, if you can't fertilize the field that's there? This is such a fundamental crisis, and we're veiling it in green initiatives. I don't get it. I just don't understand how we got this far.
There's a bigger problem going to be coming too, and it's going to be a diesel shortage.
Huge.
Yeah, they don't talk about it often, but they've been running more. The refineries in the States have been running a lot more gasoline than diesel.
Yep. And we don't have the additive. Oh, I think I lost you.
Yeah, goes for diesel now. They're running out. They're running out of diesel. So
yeah. Well, there's an additive, I believe, right, Mike, that they put in it that it is not coming online, and that's causing a massive shortage of diesel. And again, where does everything that you touch, feel, pick up? Like it came on the back of a truck. Like I just don't understand our ignorance of this process. It's crazy to me.
That's kind of critical. That and I hate to say it because I'm not a big. I don't like the oil sands at all, or heavy oil.
Right.
But unfortunately, in the society we live in, we need some heavy oils because they give you lubricants, they give you distillate, like they give you things, not just gasoline, they give you other things that you need in our society. And when you want to shut everything down and only buy the best Saudi oil, which is a light, sweet crude, which is easy to refine.
Yeah.
That's great and all, but we need other things, you know?
Yeah, from plastics, you see literally everything is being touched. And we as a Canadian society are standing back going, well, but Justin in his fancy socks told me that we're going to go green and everything's going to be fine. It's a beautiful concept, but we aren't there. And especially when times get tough, the problem for me is a bit of an existential one, because when it gets tough and people are going to have trouble putting food on their table, will they throw away the idea of green technologies, and will it be, the baby with the bathwater? And I think that's a problem. But it's going to get hard. It's going to get very hard for people very, very fast here.
I agree. I agree with you guys a little bit. Like, I think we do need to.
Oh,
Are we
Mike there?
We might have lost Mike.
Hang on a second. We'll bring Mike back in.
Yeah.
Mike, hang on a second. Oh, we're shuffled. Mike?
He might have to go back to the link there. So what I was saying is...
sorry, Mike.
Mike.
There he is.
We lost you. Sorry. So what I was saying is that, I kind of agree. I think the Liberals have dropped the ball. They were running on a platform, and they always do it. And I'm so frustrated with every government right now. Either they're running on a platform that is unrealistic and they have no actual plan, or they're saying, but I'm not him. Like, recently Ford won in a landslide, and I'm sure it's because everyone else's platform was, I'm not Ford. And, like, I'm not going to do what Ford is. But what are you going to do? That's all we need to know. Like, when I was a kid, my dad would talk about all the different, like, conservatives and liberals and NDP. I think those were only three parties back then. But he talked about what they were saying they were going to do. It was very rare that it was like they're not going to, they're not going to do it because the Liberals are doing it. It was what they were running on. It was like they're going to sweep and clean and all that stuff.
But at the time, you had conservatives that were Joe Clark. He was like, God bless him, but he was not the face of a political entity. And then the Liberal Party has Jean Chrétien. He was a leader. He came out there and he had some gusto about him.
Yeah. And he had a plan and he acted on it.
Right. But even going back to
yeah.
Right.
And charisma, like,
right.
He was well spoken.
Yeah. And going back to Trudeau 1, I would agree that his father, right? Oh. James and I've had this conversation a few times. When you go back into history to Trudeau 1 and the FLQ and dealing with the terrorists that were killing people. So we're kind of like real terrorists, not necessarily just truckers that were honking horns in Ottawa. We've fallen a long way from, the sexiness is such a facet that charisma has taken over politics. And like you said, James, going back, each party had a stanchion, and now what do they have?
Now it's like, Singh ran on the fact that there's racism, which is hard for him to prove because I didn't see it. And, I am a Liberal and I do look for those things. And the things that he was crying, like when he came to Peterborough and crying that, there was discourse that was unfair to him. It was just a few people that disagreed with him. Like, I watched the clip because I like knowing the truth. And, it's just sad that that's what he's that's what he, wants to run on. That's what he wants to make his legacy. And Trudeau, I don't know, except Playboy. I don't know, like Playboy. That's all I got from him. Like, like when he lost me the day he came out, and I didn't vote for him then because I didn't like him because he was a Playboy, and I didn't like his policies and the stuff behind him. And I knew he needed some time under his belt as a leader to learn the ropes before he jumped in. And I knew it would be a nightmare. But so his big claim to fame when he first started was that more than half the people, the cabinet, were women. And the reporter asked him, why is it important to you, basically, that half the cabinet are women? And he said, it's 2017. I'm like, that's not an answer. The answer is because they're the best people for the job. Like that really mind-boggling. Like, are you literally just putting women in the cabinet because they're women? Because that's what you just said.
Yeah.
Like you should have, if you truly believe, and I truly believe it, you should have said, because Missy here, she has more knowledge about agriculture than anyone I could have picked. She's amazing, and that's why I picked her. That's what it should have been, and it just destroyed any platform that I knew everything he said was fake. He ran on the last time was natives, the children and stuff. That was part of his. Remember, he talked about it a lot. He was gonna breach that gap. He's done nothing. Every policy he's ever talked about, he's done nothing. And then when COVID happened and Daddy Ford was coming out and saying, I got a plan, this is what we're going to do, these are the steps we're going to follow, I disagreed with him a lot, but he had a plan. He made people feel safe. And
did you call him Daddy Ford?
Daddy Ford, yeah. I like calling him Daddy Ford because that's what he was like. He was either coming out to scold us or he was coming out to lecture us into doing something he wanted.
I like that. Totally
Daddy Ford. And then you had Justin come out, and he was a deer in headlights, and he always said, we have 12 plans, and we're going to act upon one of them. And that was it. And then, he'd walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And no one felt safe. It was the weirdest thing that I felt more safe by the premier of my province than I did the leader of my country.
Mm.
It was just wild. Anyway, sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, that's good, man. I love it. Well, I think so many people, basically politician-wise, for the last 5 years, going on 6 years, have had more or less carte blanche to be anything but Trump, and they would be fine.
Yeah.
Everyone's platform, like you even said when you were talking there, is that the NDP was just, we're not Ford, right? The Liberals are, we're not Ford. Is that he's the Trump of Ontario.
Yep.
So as long as geopolitically you do not align with Donald Trump, and Mike, I don't know where you stand on that. I like Trump. Trump said a lot of really stupid shit, but there's a lot of stuff that I looked at him and went,
a lot of stupid
shit.
If I bet you, well, they're trying to indict him on the whatever happened before he left.
Right.
They're doing that because they're scared that he's going to get back in.
100%.
And I believe Republicans will be getting back into the States. The Democrats are done. They've fumbled the ball. High oil prices, high food prices. Americans hate high gas prices. And, if Trump gets back in, he'll be like, drill, baby, drill.
Yeah.
That was his campaign.
Yep. He'll get the pipeline in. He'll do all that. And he'll say really stupid things, and he'll make stupid decisions. But the only thing I liked about Trump, and Pat and I talk about this all the time, is that he came out and he said, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And then he did them all. Like, I disagreed with a lot of the things he said he was going to do, but he actually did them. There wasn't a thing that he didn't do that he said he was going to do, which, I don't agree with what he decided to do, but I love the fact that a politician comes out and goes, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it. And if our prime minister had have done that, I'd be still behind him. I'd be standing with him saying, let's go, let's do this. But the fact that you're just a liar, you're not doing anything. You're not like, we're in a really bad place. The first thing I feel as a Liberal, we can't, like you guys are saying, natural gas, and we need gas. We are not ready to flip the switch over to electric cars and greener ways. We don't have that. We don't. And our economy is failing, and we have a tried and tested that we're already doing. And right now, part of the problem with Canada is that we have this carbon tax on our gas. And I talk to Pat all the time about this. I don't know why the Liberals aren't just saying, you know what, right now is not a good time for you people out there. We know you're hurting. We're going to pull that carbon gas off until we get back to a normal, and then we'll put it back on, and we'll start, pushing 100%. That green energy again, and we'll fix, there's a time and place to fix things. And, like when my family is running low on money, I'm not painting my house, and I'm not like putting in a a new window. I'm not doing any of that because you can't. You draw everything back and you go, yeah, I plan to put in a window, but I can't today.
You don't put in new flagpoles or anything like that?
I don't put in. No.
What about the with the gasoline? We pay HST. We pay HST on the gasoline, do we not?
Right.
So now that's because it's at $2. So what is that? 26 cents of HST
Yep.
that you're a liter. So it's doubled. I
Yep.
don't understand why the Liberals just wouldn't say, "Listen, we're gonna half that. You pay
Anything.
just 13 cents deduction right away. Keep your carbon tax so you don't have to lose faith. Why don't you just take that deduction and take that off of there?" Or what the rest of the world's doing, and I can see this happening, is it's a windfall tax you're going to have to put on those oil and gas companies that are going to hate you anyway, because they do hate the Liberals.
Oh, yeah.
But put a windfall tax, even a small royalty, but only because of what's going on in the world right now.
So what's a windfall tax?
Taxes because of the war as
So
well.
what's a windfall tax?
I'm sorry?
What is a windfall tax?
Well, basically, because right now these natural gas and oil producers are making such enormous amounts of money, they can afford to pay a small windfall tax and give it right back to the coffers of the government, which should go back to us and, give us a break at the pump.
So it's because, so when they make a certain amount of money, then there's a tax involved. And if they don't make that certain amount of money, there isn't a tax involved?
Come up with small criteria and say, hey, it's so much per gallon or so much per barrel,
Right.
and give that. So we all get we get an equal, whatever you buy for liters in a year or whatever, you get an equal portion back.
Well, I think
how it would work, but that's what they're doing in England right now, and they're talking about it in other places.
right. See, and that's where, so inflation is being hammered, when you look at the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index out of the United States, they're saying that inflation is like 8.4, 8.5, 8.6%. On what planet? Like on what planet is that actual real? And they're taking out housing and gas out of that. You can't go get a box of cereal that it hasn't gone up 30%.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
their numbers are just absolute bullshit. And they're trying to choke it down the consumer's throat that everything's okay. My viewpoint, and again, I'm maybe a little bit farther right conservative, is that I don't believe that everything that you're explaining, Mike, and everything that James is saying there is that if you believe that the government that is taking your money is benevolent, I don't think that. I don't think that they have anything of our best intentions in mind whatsoever. So if you have that money that's rolling in, let's call it a $9 gallon. Why is the government taking $9 when the guys across the border in New York State are losing their mind over $5? Like, they aren't worried about putting bread on our tables. They're making it very clear. And where do you go from here? And that's where I'm thinking is that there is an underlying current that is starting to go, I'm doing simple math here, and I'm saying that guy that lives across this artificial line that we've been told is an artificial line, the largest artificial unguarded line in the entire world. We have one down in Mexico too that is artificial and unmanned, right? Borders don't matter. Why is there a doubling of gas costs that I have to? This is not a government that I respect or want in my life anymore.
Well, that's what it's going to come down to, right? It's
right.
I don't know how much money you make. It's expensive to live in this country. When you take a look at your income tax, you pay your income tax. If you want to go on a little trip, if you want to go get gasoline, look at how much you pay every year in taxes. And what are you getting?
Yeah.
We just get our garbage picked up. Our kids go to school. That's awesome, right? Yeah. They go to a safe place, which is number one priority is the schools, because it's probably the safest and best place for a lot of these kids right now,
right?
Especially for mental health,
right? Yeah.
And then you got to go to a hospital and stuff. So we do have some things, but I think that those are starting to not crumble, but they're getting pressurized as well.
Yeah. Well, it's hard because, again, you're traveling around the world. You're seeing it. You're seeing the effects of it firsthand, being other places and doing this traveling. And you're showing us, right? Kind of full circle back to this, that you're showing us with your YouTube channel, the fun stuff, the interesting stuff. That's cool. But to be able to have these conversations and pull that around and have these conversations when you're abroad, when you're in Cuba, I love sitting and talking with people down there a little bit. Well, as much politics as they'll let you get into.
Yeah.
But when you have those conversations with them and you go about, freedom, like what is freedom, the concept of freedom, what is the, governmental overreach and control and all that sort of thing. And then you go, these are the people that they are trusting to tell us the best possible stories about their nation. And they're all like, yeah, it's great, but can I borrow a couple dollars? Right. Yeah. So.
Well, when I was in Cuba, I got into talking to a few of them because I wake up super early, as all the profiteers know. So I'd go down to the beach, or I'd go down and I'd start talking to they actually rake the beach, which is wild. You don't think about stuff like that, but they're actually raking the beach every morning. Anyway, so I started talking to these guys, and then after a couple of times, at first they don't trust you. Like they won't tell you anything. They just talk about fluffy, oh, it's great here. I love dancing. It's great. But then after they get to know you, they feel you're safe. They really do open up, and they start talking about how, at a young age, they had a choice of going to university or the military, and they had to serve such a certain amount of time. And that, some of them have engineering degrees, and they're serving chicken wings to me, and they're not allowed to have discourse. Like, I was driving into Havana, and there was a group of people, and the car driver looked at me and said, "What do you think those people are talking about over there?" And I'm like, "I don't know, politics." He's like, "Not a chance. They're talking about baseball or cards, but they ain't ever talking about politics because people disappear if they do."
Yeah, they're
like, "Oh, come on, that can't even be a thing." And he's like, "Nope, you'd be hard pressed to talk to anyone about politics here." Mm-hmm. It's just wild. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's not true. Maybe he was giving me a line because he was my tour guide.
Oh, it's true.
But
100%
true. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started watching. I opened my eyes and I started listening to the conversations that were around me. And there was no like, if you walk downtown here, you're bound to run into a couple of politics conversations or religion conversations or something like that. There were none. It was very, once you're paying attention, you get those like holiday goggles off and you start paying attention, you start realizing what the country really is behind the curtain that they have given you, because it's a very thick curtain. Like, they have armed guards sometimes on either side of your resort. They're there for a reason. Yeah. Right? It's just a different world, and I'm eating chicken wings by the 12, and the lady's telling me, I'm like, "Gosh, these chicken wings are so good. Like, do you get them at your grocery store? Like, do you guys?" And she's like, "No, we can't get chicken at our grocery store. Like, we're lucky to get anything. Like, when we go to the grocery store, we don't know what's there. Sometimes there's chicken there, sometimes there's not, sometimes there, I'm like, wow, like there's so much food in our grocery stores, they're throwing it out. And here's this country that they can't feed themselves.
It's like, my bread joke.
Yeah. And and then you go to the buffet and, I maybe throw a half a plate of food out. Like, what's the server think that's picking up the garbage after I've thrown a half a plate of food out? Like, it just boggles your mind after a while when you start paying attention,
Yeah.
No, we're very fortunate. We're lucky. We live in a great country. The problem is as we kind of look around it needs to be picked up. And I'm sure that this is something that, for the last 50, 60, 70 years, a bunch of guys have gotten together and had a beer and went, what the hell's going on, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But this is scary on a level that if you can't feed your family, that's game over. That's not, oh, the taxes are too high, or that's, I want this. If we can't get basic stuff done, and like I said, and Mike, James can attest to this, if we were doing this conversation a while ago, I'd be like, everything's going to be all right. We'll just keep plodding through this. I've got some really serious concerns about like the next 8 months of like food. Like it's getting very real. And I don't know if this is, whether it's an artificially contributed to, whether it's man-made, whether it's all just horse shit. I don't know what it's going to come out of it yet. But I think that, November and December, we could be looking down the barrel of a very, 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 very constrained supply chain for food. And doesn't mean that Christmas is going to look all that great for families, right? So I don't know.
I totally believe it. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, we had Mike.
More expensive.
Sorry, go ahead.
Me? Sorry. Yeah, just being more expensive and that sort of thing, right? So, no, you were saying about you're having other Mike on?
Yeah, I was just saying last week we had Mike on, and he was talking about he does factory work, and he was saying that there's parts that they're not getting, and because of supply chain issues, so it's affecting his work, and it's just gonna keep on affecting people's work, and they're gonna start laying people off in factory sectors and stuff like that, and it's just like Pat's been watching Walmart for us here. He's been showing us it. And it plummeted for quite a while. Walmart plummeted. Like, why would Walmart plummet? And he was explaining how it was the amount that they were spending at Walmart was still up there, but the things that they were buying on wasn't very much. So it was less spread of money, I believe, is what you were trying to say.
Yeah.
Right?
So what we're seeing is the consumers pivoting, right? So the consumer is saying going to Walmart, and Walmart is, a low middle class entity. This isn't, it's not Restoration Hardware. It's not Holt Renfrew. It's not, your high labels. But what they're saying is that if people are going into Walmart or across the United States and their budget is $197, their bill, it comes out to $197. They just had 30 things before. Now they have 18. They're spending the same amount of money contracting on the purchase items that they're able to do. And what that does is that's changing behavior. It's changing the psychological purchasing power of the consumer. So when things are more expensive, you leave it on the shelf. And now you've got supply chains that have been constrained from China. They're starting to catch up. You've got companies like Target, companies like Walmart in the States that are actually having overages of products now. So they've hustled, they've filled their supply chain issues, sorted for a large portion of products, and now people are being restrained in their purchasing power, and they're going, oh fuck, how do we sell this stuff now? Now we gotta down the price. Well, that's a massive loss for these consumer-based companies.
Mm-hmm.
And how do they get out of it? They're over leveraged to purchase their next season's products because they bought too much of it. The consumer is broke. Where do you go from here? It gets scary quick, man.
Before we went into COVID, in the States, they were going to be rolling into a slow recession.
Right.
Okay. And everyone forgets that because then the states gave away $2 trillion in 2 years.
Yeah.
$2 trillion. So that's why, house prices, the stock market, crypto, everyone stayed home and took the money like it was a slot machine, and they watched YouTube and they did this and they did that and they bought things that they could never have before.
Yep.
$2 trillion evaporated. Yep. Well, now the punch bowl's gone and reality is coming in and interest rates are going up, and things now not only is food expensive, but so is your line of credit, so is your car loan, so is your mortgage when it comes up for renewal in 2 years.
Yep.
Other things are going to bad now, but I hate to say it, but give it another year or two, things will be it'll be worse.
100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, pal. And I think at the end of the day is that you understand the economics of the situation. And I think so many people have got to get to that. They've got to figure out what their own personal finance looks like. They got to look around the world a little bit and put Netflix away, right? Get off of the Netflix, get off of the Amazon TV stuff. The series is like, who cares who shot JR, right? Like, I said that because I knew you old guys would get it. I love that. I did that. That was great.
Did you research that all day? Like, I need a reference.
I'm like, I gotta get old guy material.
Right, JR.
That's it.
Done.
But like, this is the stuff, is start immersing yourself into what's going on in the world and start getting ahead of it a little bit instead of just having everything reactionary.
Yeah.
Right? You're sitting there and it hits you in the face because your mortgage is going to be at 7% when you go to renew. And you're like, what? Well, you can't afford your house now, right? The $1 million home you bought with your wife last year, because it's like money's free.
Money's free.
In 3 years' time is now 7% on $1 million. You're broke.
Yeah.
And everyone's told you that your house is a piggy bank. It ain't now.
No.
So
Not
this
to mention the house itself isn't worth $1 million.
The market is
That's the problem.
dictated by the highest contributor, right? Whoever is willing to pay the highest value drives the market. So we've talked about this before. If you've got one apple and everyone's standing around really hungry, that apple is very, very, very wanted and sought after. Okay. If you got a whole bin of apples and you got one guy standing there going, I just had lunch.
I could eat, I guess.
Shit about your apple price.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right? That supply demand thing. And where we are right now is that everybody's standing around looking at one apple, i.e. one house. There's only one house in the market. What are we going to do? 400,000 over asking, 500,000. You're an idiot. I'll go 600,000 over asking. And then your banker goes, interest rates are going to quadruple in the next 3 years. So get back to me when you close that deal. What? You're done.
Drive around now and see how many for sale signs.
Oh,
Yeah.
What was it 2 months ago? No inventory. There's no inventory. You just listen to everyone. No inventory. Okay. What did I say? Wait until interest rates go up. Interest rates, look at the inventory.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen so many houses for sale.
so many houses. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of that, though, and I'm going to be honest, I think part of that is that a lot of people were locked in their house with their significant other and really got to know them. Because I think that's a lot of it.
Yeah, they're sick of their wife after COVID. I got you. Yeah, that's right. Nice.
I've heard a lot of stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got nothing else to do. You're looking across that person that, you used to go out, you used to have interesting stories. Well, interesting stories don't happen during COVID.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on. You can't even go out for dinner together. Nothing. There's only so much sex. Sex is great, but only so much. But no, I think that's part of it. But no, right now, it used to be, I get an envelope in my mailbox. We really want to sell your house. We got someone who's going to sell. We'll get you this much money. We're good. And now all my flyers are like, if you're interested in buying a house, do you want to buy a house? Do you want to buy? It's all about buying houses. On Facebook, it's all about the market isn't dead. It's awesome. You should come buy a house. It's all.
The funny thing is, I hear now because I listen to the radio, debt insolvency companies advertise like crazy, and real estate agents.
Yeah.
Like never before. You never heard of real estate agent in the last 2 years on the media at all. You saw them on Facebook because that's where they were, right?
Right.
But
I've had three door knocks at my house. I'm in the West End here, and I've had 3 door knocks in the last 2 days. Like yesterday, having dinner was like a rush because every time they come and be like, "Oh, hey man, what's going on? Oh, you live here, right?" Like because I knew these real estate agents, and they're coming to the door. They're like, "Oh, like your neighbors are all selling, like over asking. That means there's lots of buyers." And I'm like, "No."
Because
you're selling what you have, or you're trying to get things, because then you get them under contract and it's your game. But like, with all due respect, I'm not going to sell my house that I could have got $1.1 million for a month ago. I'm not going to take 8 because you sell me that. Oh, we'll get great money for it. It's going to go to 5 again. Cool. Yeah. I'm not selling. I'm buying. Yeah. Right. And that's Mike. A little something is that I've got some property around town here, duplexes, single family, that sort of thing, right? And I look at this and I go, the Canadian market is crazy right now. I'm looking at the States. That's what I want to do. I want to go down to the States, and I'm hoping that American dollar doesn't run away quite crazy yet, so that I can go down and do that, and then go from there. But where do you invest? Where do you invest right now in Canada with a real estate market that's pulling back the way that I think it's going to, right? So we'll see.
Not
Well,
only
I
that,
think last year, I think last year, out of all transactions in real estate, I think like 20% were investors.
Right.
yes,
So that's huge.
I believe that.
When everyone that you know has 2 to 3 houses, and and investors are buying up houses, there's no one left to buy another house. Eventually, it's got to end. Musical chairs always ends. So
Yeah.
I don't know how this is. I know how this is going to play out, but I don't want to say it on your platform because I don't want a bunch of hate mail coming at me. But
Yeah. Well, we talk about it all the time. It's going to be a bubble, and it's going to pop.
Let Pat say it.
It's going to pop.
All bubbles pop.
Yeah.
Just look at crypto. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand it at 1,000. I didn't understand it at 60, and I understand it at 20 now. It's going down.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly it, Mike. And it's funny because something that I've looked at, especially doing this, and this is where it's, we started talking about, what kind of your passion was about why you started your channel and that. And I love this stuff. I really do love finance and economics and that. And one of the things that's really come over the plate, that's kind of, that, Chicken Little type thing, is my further understanding of demographics, right? Watching aging out of populations and that. And one of the big things I'm really concerned about right now is that we went through the baby boomer generation that fluxed so much money into markets. They were trying to make their last stand financially, and they needed to save every dollar they could going into the generation of retirement. Because once they retire, they can't leverage anymore. They can't borrow any more money. Okay. They need to have their investments toast, set, ready to go, every 1% out of it. Well, the baby boomers this year are done. Like the last echo of the baby boomers are done this year and retiring. Well, that was liquidity in the markets. That was cheap cash. That was people that were looking and saying, hey, you want to start a business? 5-6%. I will give you this large sum of money. Well, they're gone. They're gone. Their large sum, their low interest rate value that they pumped money into the market is gone. We're going to go through a time now where the next generation is the generation of Bitcoin and SHIB and all of the things that they're like, if I can't get 25% in a day, I don't want in it. Well, what?
Yeah.
Not real.
Right. They all want that quick. They all want that quick reaction, just like the likes on TikTok, and that's why they're so popular, because they get the quick reaction, and you don't get a quick reaction in the market all the time. I see what you're saying there. Yeah. If they go into the market and it drops like 1%, they'll panic and pull, or it doesn't go up that big, huge jump. Then it's not worth it to them. Right.
When your grandfather, gave you your first bonds, right? The railway bonds, when you turned 7, and he's like, hang on to these. Hey,
God, he was smart.
Right. Right. But when he gave you those, you're like, I just wanted a chocolate bar. Like, that's all. Well, but like at the end of the day, the only thing that's profitable this year is bonds. The oil industry, the energy sector, but bonds. You got yields that are running away because nobody wants them. Nobody wants this debt, right? So as this all starts to invert, because again, we've talked about this before, but bond yields are inverted. So the less people want of them, the higher the price goes. Are you going to lock $100,000 to $500, $1 million, $5 million for 20, 30 years for 4%? No, you're not going to do it, right? And that's what we need right now. We need people buying bonds. We need to get this rolling again, because all that is debt. We need that liquidity.
I think also, though, because everyone's been using the credit lines and maxing out the real estate, all their cash is already absorbed.
100%.
Remember that thing called cash is king?
Yeah.
This is why cash is king on these kind of markets, where this market could probably go down. Let's just say it goes down things don't drop all at once.
Yep.
They're a process. But if the market goes down for a year, cash will be king. And remember that thing? It was called a GIC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait until the GIC is 5 or 6% for a year. That will look very smart to someone.
Yep.
Do I lose 10% in the market or get 6% guaranteed? When's the last time any of us have ever bought a GIC? Not
Right.
for 30 years.
Right.
Well,
Most of the
I
people
bet it'll be back in vogue.
Yeah.
most of the people watching this don't even know what a GIC is.
No, they don't.
Right.
No, it is. It's a guaranteed income. It's
Yeah.
basically a promissory note that you keep your money with us. We're gonna get it. We're gonna give you money back, right? And you're exactly right, Mike. And I think that the more people can get themselves straight, you named the big ones, right? What's your car payment? What's your rent, mortgage, whatever your situation is? You got to get lean. You got to get cash flowing. You got to figure out ways to create income coming through, and you got to get a little bit leaner. The days of running with your credit card, at 9, 10, 11%, if you were able to get a lower rate like that, and holding a balance on it, those cards are gone. You're going to go to 20, 25, and I bet you're going to see 30s by the time this is all over, because those card companies still got to make their points.
Oh yeah.
Right?
So
what do you do?
Well, they always do well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they never will lose. No, absolutely. Mhm.
It's going to become a problem. And that's where, when we started this channel, kind of going back to where we started with all this, when we started this channel, having these conversations, my father recently passed away. James's father passed away years ago. And we started this talking about, roles of fathers, roles of men, and that sort of deal. And part of this whole process that we've built and what we continue to do is that we want to have these general conversations. These were conversations that you had with your father sitting around the table.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about money, you talked about finance, you talked about politics, you talked about religion, ethics, morals, that compass that is. And as a society, we've oddly deteriorated that to a level that, well, it's a little bit beyond what I would like. So if we can have these conversations, bring out what is a GIC again, right? That's a dad talk. I love it. That's fantastic.
No, I agree. It's like when we have these talks, and now that we're inviting in new guests, we go into other areas and genres, and it's exciting. It's neat, and I know that sometimes we get into conversations that I know the people out there get upset about, and I don't think we have in this one. I think we did last week, though. we cut it a little close, but no, I just think they're great conversations, and I really enjoy it, and I think we're running over an hour here. So,
yeah, we're running an hour and a half. I think we should probably cut it down.
So Mike, you know what? It was a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All you profiteers out there, go look for Finding Fish on YouTube. I'm going to tell you right now, most adorable couple I have ever met. They are the cutest. You got to go find when they go to the island. I think it's something to do with donuts. There's a scene where they're eating donuts, and I love that Mike put a little thought bubble above his wife's head, saying, "Yeah, I'm 4 years old. And I don't know how to use a napkin." Oh my God! I rolled on the ground laughing because she's covered in chocolate.
Oh yeah,
and that is so her. That is so her. Yeah, and you know what? I loved having this talk. I'm sorry that you're conservative. It's too bad. I appreciate you, and I think you're wonderful, but it's too bad that you're conservative, and it's okay. One day
it's over.
See the lights and join the liberal side. You know what? A lot of people are telling me I'm not even a liberal anymore because I don't lean towards all the feeling politics that we're into right now, and I struggle with that kind of thing. That we're listening to the person that screams the loudest all the time, and that's really hurting liberals. Because we're becoming ludicrous, just like the conservatives became ludicrous with the right wing stuff. We're becoming ludicrous with the left wing stuff, and we got to get back into the center. And we gotta, like I say it all the time, we gotta our governments have to talk to each other. This whole you're a racist and that's why you're saying, well, no, let's sit down and talk about the stupid issues. Let's stop yelling insults and wasting everyone's time. It's just, don't shout me down because, you can't come up with a logical argument against what I'm saying and call me a racist.
Yeah.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. That's what this conversation is all about. And anyway, I went on another.
That's what we're hoping to do here, right? We're hoping to have that dialogue and kind of run from there and open up a little bit for people. So, guys, as always, Michael, thank you very much. Folks, like, subscribe, share. James, you go ahead with your little
ding that bell, and let's hear our bodies and souls together, and go over to Finding Fish, ding that bell too. Mike, do you have a call sign? Like, so mine's let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together. And Pat is
let's make some money together.
And mine, join us. It's going to be amazing.
There you go. I love it. That's awesome. Yes. That was perfect.
That was beautiful.
Great.